What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. I stayed up for the balance adjustment preview, and I'm so excited, guys. I'm so glad I did. I can't wait to share the news with you all. I didn't look through everything, but I couldn't help myself. Let's go ahead and get into it right now. This is crazy good for all these units listed. Let's go over who they are. Martial Artist Ken, Twisted, Eidolon Kayron are going to be the two 5-stars of choice. We have Bihu, Eligos, Moon Bunny, Dominio, Crescent Moon Rain, Inferno, kawazu, and only one 3-star in the form of Shadow Knight Pillis. No artifacts this time around, but trust me, I think for a lot of y'all that have ever thought about using any of these units, you'll be very, very happy. Twisted Eidolon Kayron, obviously, a lot of people understood he needs buffs. He was pretty underplayed as well as underpowered. Even kind of broken in terms of just some of his stuff not working. But Martial Artist Ken, if you weren't aware, guys, was an absolute terror. Day one of the game, year one of the game. He was so hard to deal with. And then eventually units came out that can't be countered. And Smilegate since then has been trying to give him some stuff to make him work here and there. And he's had his time. Like, I think people have been trying him versus the recently introduced ML Landy. And some people might be having some success. But guys, wait till you see these buffs. I think he's going to return to his former glory and become super oppressive once again. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go through all of them. So first up, we have Martial Artist Ken. And let's see, the first thing that's getting changed is he's losing his attack break. We're going to look at the left before and look at the green after. And now he's going to get a 100% chance to provoke. And this is huge for a few reasons. First off, 100% chance to provoke is really strong in general. But if you understand how ML Ken's kit works, where he counterattacks, I'll let y'all put 2 and 2 together. And anytime you can provoke something where you have a powerful counterattack, that's money, right? So the Soul Burn will also increase damage dealt. So his Soul Burn's actually getting moved to the S1. And it'll also result in a critical hit and increased damage dealt. This is kind of nice because sometimes Martial Artist Ken has issues finishing a fight or doing damage on his own turn, where most of his damage is dealt via counters, obviously. So having the option to, when his turn eventually does cycle around, because most of them are going to be built very slow, it's nice to be able to like have the option of doing some damage there. But let's keep moving along, guys. The skill enhancements, they're just, I think, the name, Knockout and Dragon Flame. So let's move on to Dragon Flame here. At the start of the battle, grants Vigor for 3 turns. That is crazy. In exchange, though, we are losing the increased effect resist by 30%, which I actually like. This is one of the Smilegate's later buffs to him to make gearing him a little bit easier. He is a tough unit to gear. But they're also changing, has a 30% chance to counterattack when attacked. But now it's going to be when an ally, except for the caster, suffers a critical hit, he counterattacks. So that's a guaranteed. Think of it, guys, like 100% Elbrus, meaning when it's a little different because it does have to be a critical hit. But if an ally gets critical hit, he will automatically counterattack. Now remember, guys, if you haven't used a lot of Martial Artist Ken, he has 2 different types of counters. One where he just punches, that's the normal counterattack, and then the second one is the Dragon Flame with the unique animation where he does like the jumping up kicks, right? And that's the one that does a ton of damage. Regardless, though, even when he does the counterattacks, which won't do as much damage, he now has a chance of an extremely high chance to provoke unless you get resisted. And then that's going to lead into the enemy hitting him. If it's not cleansed, the provoke's not cleansed, and then he'll counterattack with the Dragon Flame after. That's huge. Just getting counterattacks in general is huge, but then if you count the provoke plus Dragon Flame, that's insane. I can't believe they gave this to him. On top of that, too, I missed this the first time around. They're making it even stronger where he's going to penetrate the target's defense by 40%. Built-in defense pen by 40%. Now let's see what else he's losing. When the Coming of Sword is available, according to cooldown count, increases combat readiness of the caster by 25%. Okay, so he is getting some trade-offs here, guys, right? Mainly the effect resist and the combat readiness push. But in exchange, he gets that 100% counterattack rate when an ally is crit, and he also gets defense pen and a built-in 3 turns of Vigor buff, which, by the way, right, since I said a lot of Martial Artist Kens are typically very slow, a lot of times 0 base speed, that 3 turns of Vigor lasts a long time. So very, very nice. They are reducing the damage dealt by the Dragon Flame, but I assume Smilegate, usually they do a good job on this. This is because they're increasing the defense pen. This still should be a net positive, I'm assuming, especially when, you know, you're fighting armored units or defense up units, I should say. For this to really weigh in, but that still should be at least the same damage and probably a little more in a lot of scenarios. So that's crazy, guys. This passive here, Dragon Flame, insane. Now, last but not least, we have the Coming of Asura, which is going to get its damage dealt increased. The Soul Burn obviously got moved to the skill 1, but hey, they're even giving more damage on his skill 3. Honestly, I still can't believe, guys, that they're giving him this much stuff. I think Martial Artist Ken, we'll have to see fully, right, on a few things like the damage on his abilities, how people will build him. If you still need to go for effect resist, if we still build him 0 speed, which I assume we will, but with vigor buff, with increased defense pen, with counterattacking and 100% provoke on ally, like I'm mind blown, and I think he's going to be insanely strong. The king is back. He's going to return to his former glory, and I think a lot of people need to put respect and just be ready to fight and get crushed by this man until we figure out how to actually kill him, because I think that's going to be well-built martial artist Ken's guys are going to run the field, I predict. Maybe I'm wrong, but those buffs are crazy. All right, let's keep going on. I can't believe I'm most excited about martial artist Ken when I've been wanting Twisted Eidolon Kayron to get buffed for a long time. But no matter what they give Kayron, guys, I think martial artist Ken will take the cake, at least for the most impactful for me. But let's read this. I'm still very excited about this. So Kayron, very weak right now. What are they giving him? At the end of enemy's turn, when the target has a buff, it's now being changed to at the end of an enemy's turn. So no longer do you need buffs. He will just automatically gain 10 fighting spirit at the end of an enemy's turn, which is crazy. That's huge. And when fighting spirit is full, increase combat radius attached by 50%. The part that's getting changed though, so he doesn't get the enrage anymore. But combat readiness. Oh, okay. So he's losing the enrage. The combat readiness can only be activated once every 3 turns. So I'm assuming Smelgate, right? With this new change, he's going to be proccing the full fighting spirit a lot more. And now they only want the 50% combat readiness to work. I guess it can only be activated once every 3 turns, essentially. Okay. Well, let's keep continuing on, guys. This is already huge for consistency, right? There's automatically getting 10 fighting spirit is huge. And then Sword of Requiem now. Let's go read the Awakened version. So instead of inflicting 2,000 additional fixed, a successful attack will inflict 2,000 additional fixed, and fixed damage increases proportional to the amount of consumed fighting spirit. Damage dealt is increased as well. Holy mama. Okay. So that's huge for a few different reasons here. I want to hear their explanation though, guys. Let's see this. The improvements for Twisted Eidolon Kayron will focus on refining his fighting spirit mechanism. Firstly, the condition to acquire it through his will now be eased. Now we can acquire it even when the target's not granted a buff. That's big. Namely, to gain fighting spirit more rapidly. Additionally, the skill that consumes fighting spirit will be relocated from Wandering Eidolon to Sword of Requiem. So they're moving it from here, skill 1, to the skill 3, the skill that consumes the fighting spirit. This change means that he will no longer be enraged when he has full fighting spirit, and the combat readiness increasing effect will also be adjusted to activate every 3 turns. Sword of Requiem will now deal additional fixed damage based on the number of consumed fighting spirit instead of relying on his enraged status. So a lot of just more consistency, right? And then the maximum fixed damage will remain the same as before. That's good. They didn't nerf that, but he can now inflict fixed damage on all enemies relative to the fighting spirit consumed by the player's discretion. So more options on our side, guys, using Twisted Eidolon Kayron instead of always having to wait. And remember, a lot of times, if you guys did actually use this unit, you didn't even get to use the skill 3, and then when you did, it was usually subpar. So yeah, now we have more options, like using it when we're not at full fighting spirit to increase flexibility, and to compensate for the remove rage buff. I'm assuming they're going to say here, yeah, they increase the damage overall. Okay, once again, we'll have to see the total damage, but it seems like consistency, more options for the player on your own turn of usage. You can now rip, the skills when you want at your own discretion. I think that's big. I think this might make him much more viable. We'll have to see how much stronger he'll actually be, but changes for him are very welcome, right? All right, guys, next up, Bihu, who's actually coming. He's actually been played a lot more than I've ever seen. A lot because of Landy, but I've even seen him used before that. So he's now going to get a guaranteed chance on his own turn to activate the Incinerate instead of Scorching Flare, which is just the buffed up version, right? You can read that here, guys. So that's good for consistency. They're moving the Soulburn as well over to the skill 3. I think that's the skill 3. Soulburn skill cooldown is decreased by 2 turns. Okay, even for Bihu, guys, this might not seem like a lot, but that huge consistency buff or bump up where we don't have to Soulburn it is really nice. And I think Bihu's actually in a pretty good spot for the current meta. Look at using him, guys, if you like him. He answers a lot of the current problem units, and he's actually, this is going to make him, I think, really strong. All right, next up we have Eligos, the dude with the suitcase, the assassin, the agent, secret agent. The cleaner's now going to have damage dealt increased. Cloak and Trigger now gets hit chance, which is really nice. He's going to be able to hit problem evasion units easier. And, also, sorry, the Awakened version also 50% hit chance. Let me read here. Hold on, guys. This will also be achieved by increasing his hit chance before attacking the enemy when he uses his skill Cloak and Trigger. He'll have a better chance of triggering different effects and landing attacks on enemies. The cleaner is activated while he slides with increased hit chance buff. It also apply the increased hit chance effect to the time bomb. I see. The time bomb, guys, is that additional attack. I don't think they're listing it here, but I think this is going to be really big for Eligos as well. I remember when he came out, I thought his animations were so cool. Of course, I'm not a cleaver, so I don't really use him, but I was hoping to see him more on the field, and only a select few players really use them. Hopefully this helps a lot with both damage increase as well as getting buffs on the time bomb and that hit chance buff too. I think that's a lot altogether, so he might be really scary to fight too. Next up, guys, we have Moon Bunny Dominial, which hasn't been seen a lot. She was supposed to punish those extra turn units, and you kind of just didn't see much of her. So let's see what they're changing. Moonlight Wave, they're just buffing up the chance to sleep from 60 to 75. That's really huge. Flow Control, which is really the unique part of Dominial's kit, Moon Bunny Dominial. She's going to get a 10% increase in effect resist, the passive, so just straight buff there. And they're changing the barrier. She used to give a barrier when the enemy would do an extra turn. Now she dispels all debuffs, which is, I think, much better. And also grants skill nullifier once. Okay, I think she... Let me see what they're doing here, guys. The skill enhancement will now also give increased effect resist. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. I'm assuming that's the increased chance there. And then now Divination, skill 3. This is where we're going to get the barrier now. And the skill null is moved over to the skill 2. Okay. I think that's a welcome change for Moon Bunny Dominial. I don't know how much she'll really impact the meta with these overall changes, but I think that shift in skills plus the just straight buffs to the sleep and the effect resist, I think that's actually really nice. So hopefully she'll at least be much better than she is now, which, you know, you don't see her too often. Now, Crescent Moon Rin, this is another unit, even less than Moon Bunny Dominial. I haven't seen this girl around in a long while. She used to be used as like an opener, a speed contester sometimes. Some people would use her with like RNL or Alabastron. Let's see what she does here, or what she's getting. So instead of getting a random buff, now she will have a chance to stun 40%. Wow. And the soul burn to increase it to 100%. Okay. Eye Catcher, which used to have a stun and steal 2 buffs, which she would give to her allies. Now she's going to steal 2 buffs, grant their effects to allies before stunning the target for 1 turn as well. Hold on, what's changing here, guys? So it sounds like with a Lavish Dance, steals 2 buffs, grants their effects to allies before stunning the target. So changing the order of operations, because you still get to steal 2 buffs, grants their effects, and before stun. Okay, let's see. I'll read their explanation after. Curtain Call now, though, instead of giving immunity, she now grants increased crit hit damage. So getting more... we're getting changes to the Heckle, and as well as getting crit damage instead of the immunity, which is probably way better, right? Especially if we play more offensive. And a critical hit will grant an extra turn. Okay, so built-in, almost like a built-in RNL. Wow. All right. Let's see here, guys. First, her skill, Curtain Call, will change to increase critical hit damage instead of immunity. Yeah. This will boost offensive capabilities. The condition for extra turn, previously challenging to utilize due to multiple variables, will now be modified to trigger upon a critical hit. Before, it would have to be when buffs have been dispelled. Got it. It's been a while since I've seen her, so I'm refreshing my memory on her kit here. Additionally, this Eye Catcher will be altered to inflict stun after the stealing the buffs, increasing its overall versatility. Okay, so it was just a change in the order of operations, which a lot of times, guys, actually does make a huge impact. One of the random buffs granted by her skill Heckle will now be changed to inflict stun. It's getting stun instead of the random buffs, which is really good. Okay, so maybe I think she might be a much more viable opener. Much more consistent. These changes, just a lot of very good consistency across the board for a lot of these units. Now, next up, guys, this is one that's been seen a lot, myself included. I've been using this guy, Inferno Kawazu. So let's see what he's getting here. Being used a lot now to fight against units like ML Landy. He can also pop units like Lionheart Surmia. Very, very prominent right now in the current meta. Malchus's power, his passive, I believe, right? Yeah. It's now getting a 5% bump in combat readiness. That's actually pretty big here, guys. Flames of Destruction. Even though 5% doesn't seem a lot, that could make or break a battle, right? Because you want to get that. He wants to get that combat readiness, the vigor buff, and then one-shot a unit, hopefully. And speaking of one-shotting units, the Flame of Destruction, the skill 3, is getting its damage dealt increased. I'm assuming this is because if you guys haven't been watching the WC, or if you haven't played Inferno Kawazu, a lot of times he can't finish off units, especially when they're behind mitigation, which some could argue should be a thing or not. But I think having a unit that is designed to just ignore effect resist when you meet the conditions, he's supposed to kill a unit. You know, the not tankiest units like Lionheart's Army, like ML Landy, I think having damage dealt increase is nice. It's similar to like the Little Queen Charlotte buff of the past. Not too much overall, but this could be an insane buff for him, depending on how much it does. Now, maybe I'm wondering if he can one-shot through certain mitigation. And even if he can't, just the fact that damage dealt is increased, because he does have issues sometimes finishing his plate, even if you're on like Benimaru's Tachi, even if you have the Vigor on top of it as well. So I'm curious to see how much damage dealt is increased. That's very, very scary. Last but not least, guys, we have the Shadow Knight Pillis, the 3-star specially changed unit, which used to be used sometimes in RTA, but now really, right? A lot of times it's mostly just Guild Wars. Let's see what she's getting. The health rune is now getting a almost double increase in the health recovery. Okay. That's pretty nice. A little bit of sustain there. And then the Unity rune, which used to be Pillis' one of her strengths, is like taking less damage from counterattacks, dual attacks, or extra attacks. Before, it would only affect her teammates. Now it will affect herself too, which is probably a huge bump in her own survivability. So that's actually really huge here, guys. Wow. I'm actually so excited for these changes. Let me know what you guys think. I would imagine most of y'all are happy if any of these units you've thought about playing or you own, and probably the only people unhappy are players that really wanted Moonlight Haste or whatever X unit. But guys, mark my words, a lot of these changes right now are going to shake up the meta big time, okay? So these are way better than the previous balance patch where a lot of the buffs kind of seemed hit or miss, like a little bit out of touch. These, I think, were way more you know, well adjusted, and some of them maybe even over the line, but that's exciting. So we'll see. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're excited as well, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.